It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker. I'm Robert Mesh, and I'm the guy they call Smoker Broker. I got it on my hat, I got it on my shirt, so it must be me. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's doing well. We got to, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, experience our first taste of a little bit of spring with a massive hailstorm. And the reason why that's a problem for people in real estate is that we have to track those storms, because if we have any transactions in the middle of those zones, then we have problems. I think one of the most difficult things is when we are about to close like the next day and that happens. In fact, we've already had several this morning that were on top of that and realized they had homes closing over there and they have to get roofers out. So this is not the most pleasant time for agents in Texas, because we typically have a rough spring, and it's already starting with that. And with the vendor lines being pretty backed up because of the earlier freeze issues that we have, it's going to be a little touchy, especially if there was a lot of noticeable damage in the Keller South Lake area, which it does look like there did appear to be some rough storms in there. Actually, Bonnie, did you see anything? You were in the track last night. Did you see anything fly around?
Yeah, very big hail, lot of hail damage. We had probably about water-sized hail.
Okay, so you had quarter at your house?
Yeah.
That's good. You know, I usually tell people quarter, if it's quarter and under, you're probably okay. It's when it starts getting golf ball, then.
There was one down in Hondo, Texas, near San Antonio. They think it's a new state record. It was 6 inches.
Wow. I mean, that would kill you.
Yeah, easily.
I remember, you know, we've been here 10 years, and I had never, in all my years, all the time I've done real estate, I had never been a part of one. And they were tennis ball size. I mean, it was a pounding like you had never seen. So I go from never having any type of storm to a tennis ball. I mean, they were literally just panking off the window, and it did so much damage. I mean, it was amazing.
I remember that storm because we had saved those tennis ball size hail in the freezer for a long time.
Hell, we couldn't even fit. We only could fit 3. They were too big. It was amazing. The air conditioning units, they were so bashed up. I mean, if you look at what those things can do. And it's funny, people worry about tornadoes in Texas. Anybody who's native to Texas, it's not the tornado you should worry about. Hailstorms are much more damaging and much more wider in their spread of damage than any tornado is going to be. So that wasn't fun last night for a lot of people. You know, that warning wasn't too high. I mean, it's not like they've been saying all day that there was going to be some real rough weather. But when it turns on you, and that's in Texas, that's just how it goes. But it does make it a difficult morning for us, because we have to get out there and start evaluating anybody that was in that path and say, hey, look, remember, you own the house until you close. A lot of people are of the opinion that if they've gone through repairs and something like this happens, that's not their responsibility. No, it doesn't work like that. In your contract, it specifically says the house has to be given as is, meaning as it was at the contract time. And a $30,000 to $40,000 roof that's been mauled is not as is at that point. So this happens with air conditions too in the summer. Air conditioning goes out the day before close, and let me tell you, it happens all the time. I love my sellers like, oh, this only happens to me. I'm like, no. It happens all the time. And it's unfortunate. It's terrible when you have to tell a seller that they're going to have to spend like $8,000 to $12,000 and they will never get any use or get any of it back, nor raise the sale price either. They literally have to replace it. I will say that's still one of the worst things I hear. You might not think it's too horrific or anything. It's just such a, I'm big on I don't like kicking the guts. And that's such a kick to be told you owe $12,000 or something when you're moving out. It's such terribleness. I will tell you though, I've said over the years to some people that are in that and they show that kind of disappointment. I've told them, I go, hey, look, if this had happened a day or so later, they might have, said you knew about it and caused, like with the air conditioner at least. And sometimes you're just like, hey, it's probably best that it happened like that. But it still sucks. It's an awful thing. So, all right, we're going to jump right in because we're going to have a little bit of we're going to cut 15 minutes off on the end of the show today because yours truly is getting his second COVID shot. So I'm going to have to split and get that out of the way. So we'll probably cut off at 12:45. So we'll make the intro shorter than it usually is, which I'm sure everybody's thrilled about. Brent, do you want to go ahead and get our sponsors out of the way so we can get going?
Sure. Yep. Our first sponsor is Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections. He is our go-to home inspector. We, of course, always give our clients a number of inspectors to choose from, but Martin is the inspector we prefer. He is always on time or early, finishes in a timely manner, gets the report to you the same day, and all reports are color-coded. Red for serious issues and blue for minor things to look at. You can always book him at bpginspections.com or reach him at 817-401-3240. And our second sponsor is Mr. Greg Holdberg with Liberator Health Insurance. Your simple solution to affordable healthcare is here. Join the Liberator movement and take control of your healthcare. Customize your healthcare plan to fit your healthcare and budget needs. Use any doctor or hospital without a penalty. Teledoc is included in all plans, no annual deductibles, and no copay. Liberator Deal of the Week. A couple in the late 50s got great coverage for $636 per month, including a health savings account that grows to $5,000. As an independent agency, Liberator is committed to transforming healthcare in Texas through innovative healthcare plans that are affordable and rich in benefits. For more information and to get a quick quote, call or text Holdberg, independent health insurance broker, at 214-886-4688 or visit them at liberatorhealthinsurance.com.
Yeah, they're all great vendors there. Love working with those guys. We've never put somebody on here that we don't fully support or that we didn't think does even an average job. Hey, Dallas,
Speaking of average jobs, how are you doing, Mike?
That's right. Speaking of average, Mike Dallas, ladies and gentlemen.
So average job. So what were y'all talking about? Robert, what?
I thought Dallas just woke up.
Yeah, no, he's working.
Call in there. All right, we're going to talk about. Told you we weren't going to waste any time today. We're going to jump right into listing presentations, and I'll tell you why I chose this topic today because we're not just in our normal listing presentation right now. Our listing presentation is modified to some extent because of the market we are in. Right, so it's a different type of listing presentation. In fact, I think even my guys on the call today. I might get something out of it because I'm probably going to say a few things that they're surprised to hear me say because they've gone off my listing presentation for so long that they would think it's weird that I kind of stray from it right now. But you almost have to with certain things because it's warranted in this particular market. There are certain things that we should be doing a little bit differently in that listing presentation. So for today, takeaway for everyone out there is going to be what you should be doing in those listing presentations. We're not going to get through the whole thing. In fact, we'll only get to the beginning piece, which means we'll probably continue that. Not next week. We'll take a week off next week, and then the following week we might continue that. So, in fact, I think the show sometimes is a 3-part series. So we'll see how that goes. But it'll be good, and I actually think it's good for the even the 5-year vets or so. I think for them, it's a hey, maybe I should do that. Maybe we should be reassessing. I was trained a long time ago how to do that, but obviously that's not the way we should do it right now. Even from a cost perspective, you have to think about the charging and stuff. Does it change right now? Does it not? That's probably need to discuss that too. Okay. So when we go into a listing presentation, Dallas, what are some of the things that we're going to want to have as we go in to the listing presentation? We're not doing I'm going to combine the listing presentation and the listing appointment here. So if we're going to
we're doing the presentation. We're not listing the house. We're trying to list the house.
That's right. Right. So when we're doing that, and we're having this, because remember we established the appointment as when we actually go back in and physically list it. So today we're talking about going to the house, trying to get the listing. Right. So thank you for that. What do we do when we go in there? What do we want to have ready when we're going into that appointment?
Booze.
Comparables.
What's that?
Comps.
Comps. You want comps, right? That's one of them. Bonnie, what else?
She's muted.
Bonnie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Bueller?
Net sheet.
What's that?
Net sheet.
Net sheet.
Net sheet.
Okay, great. Breaks down the cost for us, right? Brent, what are some other things?
Well, an IABS.
Yep. So one of the starts of the paperwork, the IABS, which we talked about a week or so ago. That's convenient that we just talked about that because that just shows how that flows into this conversation. So yeah, the IABS is going to be there. So and look, notice how Brent's a pro. If you pay attention to what he did there are other people who are like, oh, well, there's a lot of other paperwork. We need to have this. I'm like, he didn't say that because he knows that comes the next time. What he did say is that he knows damn good and well he has to have that IABS with them.
Yep.
So I think that's a pro way of looking at that, to know good and well.
But we don't sign that until we're about to go to close, right?
Not like you do, Bill. We have you on so we can say this is how you don't do it. So yeah, you have to have these things ready. We're not going to talk. Those of you who think today's show is where we actually go through the listing presentation, showing it and doing all the graphics and stuff. That's not what this one's about. This one's about the nuts and bolts behind what it is that we do and how you should be prepared. And quite honestly, it's the more important part of it. So that's what we're talking about. All right, so we're going to go in, and they were right on all those things. We're going to have that list that we're about to talk to them on, okay? Now, I will tell you what we think the presentation flow of that should be, even though we're not showing it. If you're taking notes or something, that process should look something like this. There should be, of course, an introduction, right? And then you're going to go into the comps. Now, first takeaway from today, do not tell them what you think their house is worth at that point in time. We want to wait until the end to tell them, because if we tell them how much the house is worth or what we think the house is worth right then and there, what happens the rest of the time?
They stop listening.
They're not listening.
They're not going to pay attention to one damn thing. Y'all joke all the time that the most simplistic listing presentation that actually would be pretty correct is us going and saying, hey, nice house. I think it's going to sell for $380. It's going to cost you this much. Thanks for having me. Because in reality, that's all they want. That's all they want from us. Brent, were you going to say something?
Well, I think we have to differentiate between when you're doing it for a stranger and somebody that's a good friend, right? Because we do our listing presentations totally different. If it's somebody we know really well, we're going to come in, let them show us the house, and you've probably already been there if they're good friends, and you will tell them that, hey, this is what I think we'll list it at, this is how much you'll net, and it's simple. But I think for today, I'm going to be talking about maybe somebody you don't know well or stranger.
All right, that's good. That's a good point, because I do think that, well, I know my listing presentation is different for somebody that I know. In fact, sometimes I know if I don't even have it. Sometimes I know I'm just going to go there and tell them, hey, look, I checked it out. Looks like it's going to sell here.
Yep.
It's going to cost you this amount. And sometimes that's just as good because you really don't need to go over everything unless they ask. If they ask, of course, we want it to be something that's normal. All right, so you have your comps. And now they're going to, here's another takeaway. They're going to try and ask you right then and there, well, how much do you think the house is worth? You need to do whatever you can to get them off that. Whatever it takes. I want to tell you that in a little bit. I got to show you some other things so you can understand it. Now, if they keep beating you down to a point where they're like, I want to know, tell them. All right? You can't get away if someone's going to force you to, but we want them to listen to us before we get to that point. All right? So you really need to try as hard as you can to lay the groundwork for what you're about to tell them. Now, look, I'll give you another little bit of experience. That's why a lot of people watch this show, because they pick the brand of someone who's been doing it for 20 years. And I will tell you, this is an expert item that most people don't think of and they don't do, because it does deal with people skills and reading people. And there's a little bit of that responsibility in a listing agent. So we know what the price is going to be, but sometimes we don't know what they know it's going to be yet. And you know how you start figuring that out? You watch them like a hawk when you're going through those comps. In fact, my guys are trained on, they know that what they're supposed to do is when they go through a comp, as soon as they're done with it, they're supposed to immediately look up and see what the seller is doing. Not like Brent. We want to make sure they know that they're dealing with someone who's competent. We look up really quick, and we especially look up when we already know that one of the things that we're going to show them probably isn't something they're going to like. You look up quick.
Well, we've also asked before before you go there, we ask them on the phone, hey, do you guys have any idea what it's worth? And that kind of preps you on how difficult that's going to be. And
that's in my preferred method. And I do teach my guys the same thing, that they should we call it fishing. We should try to fish for what they think it is before we get in there. Now, most agents don't do it. And most sellers who are smart will be like, well, why the hell do I have you coming if I already know that? That's a good answer as a seller too. If an agent ever tells you that, that's a great answer to say, well, what are you coming here for if I'm going to tell you?
I always tell them, hey, I would still want to know what you think your home is worth, because that helps me understand what you're looking to gain out of this whole transaction.
I like that. That's a good way. That's a comfortable way to fish.
A comfortable segue into that is they need to know what they still owe on the house. If they know that, then at least you can say, well, I thought it was going to be worth this. Well, like you're still getting $90,000 above that what you owe. So
that's right.
Be comfortable with it.
Yeah, very good point. That's a very great comments from both of y'all, because both of those are very true as to what we're looking at. So the reason why we're studying them, there's really three faces or eyes that they give us. If they're content with it, a lot of the times it's
okay.
If they're concerned about it, they kind of have a palish look, and they look at the other spouse or other significant other and do something like that, or they put their finger up, and that's a sign that they've discussed this already and they don't like what they see. And then the one that it's good from an understanding standpoint, but it's not what we want to see. They are literally getting annoyed by the comps. In fact, sometimes they will stop you and go, you can't possibly think I'm worth that. Okay? Which I'm like, no, I didn't say you were. What I did want to say, though, is that one was in your range, and someone else is going to look at that besides me. So I want you to know it. I'll tell you what we're going to do with it, and I want you to know that it's there. So a little bit of you've seen this in some of your initial classes and even in just regular school, where they talk about visual identification of somebody, how you watch their body movements and what does it mean. From my old loss prevention days too, when someone does this when they're talking to you, that means they're creating a barrier in the fact that they don't necessarily agree with what you're saying. A lot of times if they look up into the left, they're starting to say that they're trying to recall what the truth was about something, but they can't recall it. So they might be lying. There's a lot of things you watch for in somebody when we do this. So it's not just a presentation matter. You have to have other skills that are involved in that. So we're doing that. We're looking. We're watching them. We're going through the comps. And our hope is that we get through the comps and that we've put the groundwork down that this is what we're probably going to tell them. Didn't say we are, but this is what we're going to do. I'll give you another takeaway. Lots of takeaways from the show today. When you show your comps, I would start with the medium one first, and then the worst one, and then I would start moving towards the best one. I would always end with the best one. If they're going to take a shot in the gut, we want it to be, there's something after it. You don't ever want to end with that.
I do my comps a lot differently now than I used to listing presentations. I've already comped it at home, but then I bring my iPad or my laptop there and I comp it right in front of them live. This is what I'm doing. Here's all the data. And I let them walk through it, the same process I see. And it kind of walks them down that road quicker because they can see price per square foot. They can see all the other ones that are current and live. Because I think when you just bring paper, they're like, oh, you must have missed something. And they're like, oh no, this is everything right now.
Yeah, I like doing it that way too, because that's not just us telling them what the other house was. We can actually show them. I'd be like, hey, look, this one, look what they did inside.
Yep.
I've done this before too, where I pull a house that has a lot of upgrades, and I know I'm dealing with a seller that probably thinks their house is high.
Yeah.
I'll pull it and I'll be like, hey, look at this. Look at the work they did and when they did it. And then I'll be like, and then I look back at them just so they know that I'm like, that doesn't look like that. So
wow,
that's good too. I didn't say I said it. I said I look at it like that.
He's with a scowl.
I make a damn point to make them know that, hey, that ain't what you're getting if that's what you're going to list it at.
He spits on the floor and walks out.
Y'all remember, we want to be as accurate as we possibly can be.
Yeah.
We don't want someone that wants us to list their house way above what we think it is. So we want to make sure that we've laid the groundwork down, and that's probably not what you think is probably not what we do. All right, so we go through the comps. Yep.
And also when they have questions on a home that's listed higher than what I'm recommending their house be, I always tell them we can take an appointment, go see it. And as soon as they see it, they'll be like, okay, yeah, fine. I mean, I get it, because sometimes pictures on a laptop and how the home is maintained, curb appeal, it's hard to see sometimes.
Yeah, I've when I get into that conversation with sellers, and this is hard for a lot of people that are doing it in the last couple of years, because you haven't had to talk with the seller about why the house isn't selling. And I said this on the other show the other day, and the more I talk about it, the more I'm starting to believe it. As an industry, we have a big problem with the amount of agents that have come on in the last couple of years. A majority of the people that are watching the show, I'm talking to you right now because, I did mention it. I think I used the same term. Y'all haven't even learned your dogfighting skills yet. You don't know how to respond to a seller when they're like, hey, why the hell is my house not selling? Which I will tell you historically, that's the worst thing that we have to encounter is when a seller starts getting on to us about their house not selling. And the agent, I don't know why I say 2 years, it's probably been 5 years. So you could have a 5-year vet. You could have someone who's already, in awards and on billboards that has literally not ever had to address this. And it's probably the most difficult thing.
Yeah,
and it is where you really separate when someone's experienced versus someone's not.
2 things on that. One, when you go in for your listing presentation, if you're with respect, but you're brutally honest about things that buyers may not look in that house, right? And it can be something as simple as like, this floor plan is weird, or hey, it has 2 bedrooms or whatever. And you can always go back to that later when they're like, why is my house not selling? Well, because of this, right? We talked about this already. The second point, and Robert's always made us do it, and it's a good thing to do, is when you go in for your listing presentation, ask the seller, hey, what are your 3 things that you love about this house? Show me the things that you love about the house. Because you'll know then what's important to them. Even if you don't think it's important, they will, and it better be in that listing description.
Right on the money. As always, right on the money. And we want to know what they like about that house. Every seller knows what they like about their house. Every seller, usually within a few seconds, can say, well, we love this about the house. He's right. That better damn well be in that listing description. Because if it's not, you are a fool and you're not paying attention to what the seller really wants to see and how they want their house marketed. So that's a good takeaway too, is that we do want to ask them, what do you like most about this house? Okay. And
Robert,
they tell
what the actual upgrades, what have they had for done? Is the HVAC system as old as the house?
Yep.
Was it replaced 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Just
So
things
that's a
that
question I like
you
to
can
do.
say.
I like to be like, hey, do you have a list of the upgrades you've done? Maybe a dollar amount. You don't have to give it to me today, but I'd really like to see that. That gets someone walking down the line. We replaced the AC last year. We put on a new roof. It's yada yada yada. So I like that too. Those are great ways of getting to, hey, I need to know what you think is best. I know what I think is nice in here, but I want to hear what you have to say about it too. Right?
Robert, did you lose a listing one time because you didn't tell the person they liked the house? Was that you?
That they didn't like the house, or I didn't like it?
No, that you never mentioned, like, oh, you've got a great house. Was that you?
That I didn't tell them I had a great house, or there was something wrong with it that I hid?
No, you didn't tell them. Like, so they went with another agent, and you found out why, and they were like, well, because you didn't say that you liked our house.
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't me.
That's news. Yeah, someone lost a listing because of that. They came in and talked about the house, but they didn't compliment the seller on, oh, you've got a great house. And that was enough to lose it for them.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are some things you just have to shrug your shoulders on. That type of individual, if they really expected me to say that, and that's why they chose another agent, hey, teach their own. That's not the expertise that we're supposed to be giving. In fact, that person could have been lying just to get it.
It's weird that you go into a listing presentation with pictures of your own house. It's weird that you do that and you show them. You're like, well, this is what a good house should look like. Why do you do that?
Never tried that. That's bold. Very bold. So yeah, I mean, they're on whether they're praising their listing. I'm not against it, but I'm certainly not going to say it just to say it. And to lose a listing over something like that, that's awful. So yeah, excellent. Funny to hear that. Okay, so that's your first phase. And to prepare, that's one of the hardest things for new agents, because I've told y'all before, the most difficult thing we teach is comps.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike's 10 years into this, he still can't do it correctly. So, I mean, if he can't do it, it's going to be a problem. Now, in all seriousness, even I still have to pause sometimes. Even I sometimes look, I'm like, I don't know. It's funny. The later years in my career, I started.
Probably want to leave that out of your listing presentation, though.
I've gotten to where I'm not afraid to tell someone, hey, I usually feel like I'm 98% right on that thing, but on this one, I'm not so sure. I think I'm probably closer to 75%. I just want to prepare you that might affect where we go on. I'm very upfront about it. I don't want them to think that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it's worth, because that only causes trouble. Those of you, so that's a great takeaway from today. Those of you who've been trained to, like Brent said, tell someone how nice their house is and then let them sucker you into listing it at a higher price, it's a bad thing to do. Because you might very well get the listing, but if you can't sell it, you're going to wish that you had told them where it should have been. Now, this doesn't apply to this market, because we don't have to worry about that. House is going to sell. And again, which is why I think we have a problem in the industry right now, because you're going to have agents that get experience that aren't experienced yet. And they're going to run into these things when they should have run into them when they were in the beginning. And now they're having to face it later. And I will say, and I don't mind when I point out something that's a core value of our group, that's one of them. My guys, they experienced that. They already experienced that, whether they're in that market or not, because I already created it for them. I already told them that this is why. They don't learn on their own and go, oh, I got it. But what were you saying?
No, what I was going to say is that whenever I present them, whatever the number is, I'm very confident about that number. And I have normally data and statistics to tell them I can sell, if they list with the number I'm recommending, I can guarantee I can sell the house in so many days, or it won't sit long on the market. But when there are newer agents who may not have that confidence yet, they don't have to be that worried if they're in our group, because they have you, Brent, and all of us, and they can always say, I have my broker review my CMA, and we are confident about this price, and we have all these capabilities. And I think that is what actually makes the seller more confident. Yes, there is a number. Is it meeting his bottom line? Yes or no? But if he's confident that I am confident about getting it sold at that price, they are more than happy to list it at that price.
Yeah, so we talk about that at joinswr.com. We actually talk about this type of confidence builder that we are reminding the agents out there that you don't ever have to say that I've only been doing this for a year or so. Our guys are trained to say, well, hey, look, I partner with my broker and he's been doing it for 20 years. He does the advanced and legal review and I do all the groundwork. And that is a true statement. That is what happens. So it is twofold. It's not just the fact that we've created the training to acknowledge what the past has looked like, but we also give them the confidence that it doesn't matter, because if they go out there, they know it's going through us regardless. So they should be very happy. It really is a 2-for-1. So yes, that is a value add that we do. And we're proud of it too, because it's very hard to make that type of commitment to your agents. Okay, so one topic that the guys, meaning these guys over here, Banu too, even though she's not a guy, when we go through the expectation side, we like to set expectations for the clients out there. And actually, I'm probably reversing it. Sometimes I say what it is that we can do for them. And then in fact, let me keep with they're trained this way. So let me push that one back. The second one that you want to go to, if you're taking notes, is where we tell them what we can do for them. This is where this is probably your biggest sell point, is that this is where you got to be right on the money and tell them what you think is going to make you better than the other guy over there. With us at Keller Williams, that's easy. We have every brokerage has their thing. With us, we immediately impress upon somebody that we can buy their house if they want us to. We can advertise that we give closing cost incentives, which means they don't have to bring as much cash. We have concierge services where we can lend money so that they can fix their house. And huge technology packages. So for us, that's easy. Very easy for us when we're talking to somebody. That's one thing about KW Agent. And I know a lot of people watch the show. And yeah, that's very favoritism towards Keller. We don't say it because of that. It's something we're very proud to have. So I want to make that distinguishment. If you work with another great broker like Berkshire Hathaway or something like that, that's not a shot towards them. Berkshire has a great presentation and I'm sure is awesome. I like the things that we do when we go out there. I know that I'm confident that if they haven't seen value yet, they're damn well about to start. And remember, it's another takeaway. Not only a takeaway for the show, but a takeaway for life in business. Everything's about value added. Mm-hmm. Everything you do in business should be adding value. Because if you go days where you're not adding value, then you need to really step back and reevaluate what it is that you're doing. That message is really important for my crew that watches, whether they do live or an archive. I mean what I say there. If you're going through days where you didn't add value, I'm like, what did we do then? And what was the point of today? And that's not just work. That's your life too. If I go a day, it's rare, but if I go a day where I don't feel like I did anything productive, and again, that's very few days for me, I feel pretty rotten at the end of the day. I feel empty. I feel like I've done something wrong, and I have. But you have to pay attention to that. So everything we talk about on the show, in the firm, we press value add. We're a member of a conglomerate of other Keller Williams in the Go Network, and that's something they push too. And their leadership pushes down that it's all about value adding. Mm-hmm. We're very supportive about that. So, all right, so we go through and we're going to sell to them what it is that we do. I'll make one more comment about the sell point, because I've always made it clear throughout the years, I don't like being called a salesperson. Weird for a guy like me. And I just don't like the terminology because I don't think that's what I'm doing. But I will admit, as close as I ever get to selling, it's going to be the first time I meet that person, literally the first 30 seconds, and then this section that we're talking about here. Those are the two times that, as much as I can't stand being called a salesperson, that's as close as to a salesperson as I'm going to get, are those two things. Because here's the deal, and you should know this already because it's common knowledge, but you typically have 30 seconds to a minute max for someone to judge you. Is that right? Is that okay? No. But first impressions are very important in real estate.
That's why it's important to ask to use the bathroom as soon as you walk in.
Exactly. That sets a great standard for what you're about to do.
Come out about 20 minutes later.
Or, well, hey, so look, we joke about that. No, I'm very stern. You might as well just keep on going if you're late to a listing appointment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind saying this on air. I've lied very few times in my life. Very few times. But some of the times that I did, if I was late to like a real estate appointment, I made up the worst excuse I could because I was so, ashamed that I missed it. I'd make damn sure that it was, anybody would be like, oh, that's awful. So it's embarrassing. You don't want to miss. You don't want to be late. And you don't want to be horrifically early either. A lot of times the plan should be where you get to where you're supposed to be like 30 minutes early and you just stay about half a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have plenty to do. And then by the time you're done with that, you pull in just about 5 minutes before. And that's usually good advice to be ready and be prepared. You go in, it's your first impression. It's the things you say, it's your mannerisms. They're looking at you and they're going to make a decision pretty quick. That also goes for when they buy a house. Most people have decided whether they're going to buy a house within a minute of looking at it. They haven't even gone through the whole house yet. I've always found that stat staggering. That many people just immediately, just because the hallway, they're like, this is it. I don't know how you can say that.
I think that
the rest of it.
On that, it doesn't matter how you dress. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it matters how you dress for this too.
So, and look, so I'm glad you brought that up. And that's a good takeaway here too.
And
it's
I've
a roller coaster.
I was saying I've also found in the past it helps to ask the sellers, should I keep my shoes on? Or simple things like that makes a huge impression on them because they're like, okay, this person is considerate about my home and my customs or whatever the deal may be. And I think that makes it really appealing to them and you get a connection with them.
So that's interesting how you said that, because that was going to be my support answer to Brent. I think you need to do your homework about where you're about to go. There are some people that would expect you to be in a suit and tie or a very well informed business dress when you go to one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
God knows it ain't going to be me, but you'll have some people that will insist upon that, okay? You have others that would be like, what the hell are you so dressed up for? And that's always my shot at someone who's like, well, you need to dress the part. I'm like, easy on that. That's not true all the time. Because sometimes you actually offend somebody that if you dress too nice.
Yep.
And I'm always very defensive of that. Yeah.
Well, especially as you're going to ask for 3% of the value of their house. And if you show up wearing a $5,000 suit, they're going to think all you want is money.
That's right. There are assumptions that can be made. So I find the best way to do that is to get a feel for, hey, who is it that I'm about to go look at here? What am I going? What is it that they have at the house? Where do they live? I'm going to try to monitor what I think I'm getting into and be as close to them as I can from a dress standpoint. Okay?
Yep.
So that's a good takeaway too.
I would not go to a land listing appointment to walk the land in my high heels and keep getting caught everywhere or something.
And the average person would say, the average real estate agent would say, you should. I'm like, no. I go, I don't think you should. I go, because I think it sends a different message sometimes. So, and there are brokers that disagree with me. We have people inside the Keller Williams family that disagree with me on that. And that's fine.
But that's our team, though. I mean, our team kind of follows that lead. We all are a little bit more casual and stuff, but very professional.
Because most of our clients are.
We're like the
mullet.
mullet.
Our clients are casual based, so why would we change that mannerism?
We really are business in the front and party in the back, as far as that.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say I've made it a point when someone actually looks down at me for dressing the way I do that I intentionally dress like that the next time, just to go, I don't need you to tell me how to dress to do this job, so I don't care for it too much. But you want to be able to research and know what it is that you're getting into when you go through there. So we give them we tell them what we're going to do for them. We make sure we have good first impressions, and we are really selling our resources to them, trying to make the case that you should not be going with anybody else. If we do our job right, we should have won the listing point at that point.
Yep.
We should have won. If you're doing your job right, when you're done with that part of the presentation, you better know by now if you got them or not. Because if they don't respond well to those things, that means they heard what you do and they don't like it.
One thing I've done lately, and it's been pretty successful, is normally you go through the listing presentation, and then you go through the net sheet with them, and then they see how much you're asking your commission, and that usually becomes a sticking point. So what I've been doing is we go through, we do the comps in front of them, we come up with a listing price that they agree at, and I'm filling out the net sheet where they're not looking at it. And so then what I say is, okay, so it looks like if we sell at this point and we close at this date, you should net about 70 and already include my full commission. So now it's already prepped them for that number. So then I turn it around and show it to them, and they see the split's already broken in there. So it kind of softens the blow a little bit.
Yeah, we do. There's nothing. It's funny. The two things they want from us most are the two things that they really probably don't want to hear.
Yeah.
They always say it, and I'm going to start closing it up so I can get going here. So the show's a little shorter day, which no concern. We're actually just going to keep continuing in a week or two the same conversation. Brent, what'd you say? I wanted to word it right. What were you saying exactly? Because it was the way you said it that made me think of this. What did you just say?
As far as, you prep them and you kind of soften the blow by showing them how much they're going to get before you show them the breakdown of your commission splits.
Right. I'm trying to remember how there was something you said.
Look up and to the left.
Trying to recall. No, I go to the right because I'm recalling something that was true. That I know it. I can't recall it though.
Well, it's all about setting expectations and making sure that the value that you're worth the commission that they're going to pay you. I think it had
something to do with the being truthful about what it is that we're doing.
You said that people there's two things that they want to know, and they're usually the things that they don't hear.
Oh yeah, right. I knew you'd get it. They want to know what, like I said, how much it is and how much it's going to cost. And what I was going to tell you, and Brent finally remembered so I could get to it. In all these years, I'll tell you a significant fact about me. It's true too. I've sold a lot of homes too. And my team sold a lot of homes too. I have never, in my 21 years, I have never had a client that I told them how much their house is worth, and they went, "That's exactly what I thought too. You're right." Never. It's never happened. They always say, "Oh no, it's worth much more than that." And I find that interesting.
I usually put the Zestimate and give it to them.
The Zestimate. I find that amazing though. I do. In all the years, so many smart clients too. You would think one of them would have been like, "Yeah, we're thinking about the same thing." It never.
No.
It's always more. Now, This is a good piece to end on because this is the next building point as we get into the continuing part of the show where we talk about the expectations, what they can expect of us, and the toughest part, which is the finance part. All right, so we're going to talk to them about these things here. So we're like midway through what the listing presentation, just the core looks like. And that's going to be the next two sections is the expectations and how much it's going to cost. And we kind of do save the negative part for last because it's most sellers aren't thrilled with what we tell them their house is worth. Right now they are. It's asterisk. But most of the time they're not. And if you didn't think they weren't happy about how much it was worth, they damn well aren't going to be happy about how much it cost. So it can be a very humbling experience if you don't know how much it costs to sell a home to see those costs broken out. So you have to really work on your presentation skills. And what tipped me off on that was Brent talked about softening the blow. If you haven't figured it out yet, this entire process that we were doing in the beginning is just that. Think about it. The CMAs, We're showing them houses that are pretty much like theirs, exactly the same size, in the exact same neighborhood, might be the neighbor across the street. We're telling them about the things we're going to do, the things that we need, that we can help with the house. We're eventually going to get to a net sheet too. And we're telling them, we're bracing them for what they probably are not going to like. But by the time we do it, we should have given them enough information to go, I understand. So that's a great takeaway from the show. It's a great way to end the show, that we understand that. Y'all enjoyed it today. So that's always a fun topic. We will continue it. We're going to be off next week, but we're going to continue it the following week. We're going to go right back into where we start about expectations, which I actually find to be one of the most important parts as well. You guys have a great week. We'll see you soon.